The following is a presentation of the Missouri Sports Network.
Hey, good morning, Missouri. Dateline, Wednesday, May the 22nd, 2024. Certainly glad you tuned in here to Season 1, Episode 5 of Where Are They Now Wednesdays with Playing on Sports, Kent Mueller. Kent, how are you doing today?
Doing very well, Guy.
Tell you what, it's hopefully a beautiful day in Missouri today. I know there's some storms that came through parts of Missouri last night that kind of interrupted some high school baseball sectional quarterfinal games, but hope everyone out there is safe this morning here as we look at Episode 5 of Where Are They Now Wednesdays as we get into the postseason. Maybe not all the way in with regards to baseball, but softball is really ramped up here at the NCAA level, and a lot of folks we need to fill you in on today, especially on the softball area. And Kent, what do you have for the listeners today?
Well, as we went into the Division I postseason softball tournament last week, we had a lot of athletes playing at a lot of colleges from a lot of high schools, but we had 43 athletes from 17 playing at 17 colleges from 31 high schools. But the week was brutal. We're down to two colleges where we have Missourians on the rosters. But if you're only going to have two, you might as well have a local in-state college with 11 local players and also two players playing full-time on the number one team in the country. Excellent representation of softball in the Division I softball tournament. And we'll start off with that number one team in the country, which is the University of Texas. On Friday, they defeated Siena. And on the mound was Mac Morgan. She's a right-handed pitcher. She's a junior. She's out of Sherwood, Missouri. And she had a perfect game going into the last out in the top of the seventh inning. And she gave up a walk. And then she got the next batter out, so she finished with a no-hitter. But what I want to point out is that was only the third batter the whole game where she had three balls. And the first two times she had three balls on the batter, she ended up with two of her four strikeouts for the game. So she was dominant in that game. And Texas went on to win that. Morgan is now 13-1 for the season. Her ERA is down to 1.97. Now, there are two more games that Texas played in the first round of the tournament this weekend. And they were against number 25 Northwestern. Well, they won both of those games. And in those three games of the first weekend, starting in the outfield and leading off for them is Ashton Maloney. She is a redshirt sophomore out of Liberty. And for the weekend, she was 3 for 9 at the plate. She scored 5 runs and had 2 RBIs. Ashton is hitting .420 for the season in her leadoff spot. They will play Texas A&M this coming weekend. So 2 top-notch players out of Missouri. They're underclassmen playing on the best team in the country. And a big reason they're the best team in the country is because of Ashton and because of Mac. Missouri. Ranked, I believe, 9th in the country. They have 11 players here on their team, and this last 11 players from Missouri. And last weekend it took 5 games, but they survived to move on. They'll play Duke this next weekend. A couple I want to point out is Abby Hay. She's just a freshman. She's their first baseman. She's out of Rock Bridge. And in 5 games over the weekend, she was 6 for 17, scored 4 runs, had 4 RBI, including a double and a home run. She's hitting .313 for the season. And that's a freshman getting it done at the E1 level. And I also want to point out Julia Crenshaw out of Fort Zumwalt West. She's a junior. She's a catcher. She caught 5 games in 3 days. And that's anybody who's been a catcher knows that's tough duty. I was never a catcher, but I was always in awe of the catcher who got behind the plate and was involved with every pitch and getting up and down, throwing. Somebody has to do it, and thankfully we have the Julia Crenshaws out there that do it well. She caught those 5 games in 3 days. Oh, and then she was hit by 2 pitches. So she had a long weekend, but because of her, Missouri is a success, and they're moving on to play Duke this weekend. Shows it takes stamina to play the game of softball. Um, in Division Two, there's one Missourian left uh, going into the Sweet 16. Her name is Paxton Donaldson. She's out of Staley High. She plays for Rogers State, and she's a senior outfielder. Now they lost in the Sweet 16. They lost 2 games to Augustana. Uh, However, Paxton for the year, she led off for Rogers State, and in those 2 games, she went 3 for 7, scored a run, and picked up a double. In Division Three, there were 5 athletes from Missouri going into this week, last weekend. Now in the Sweet 16, there's only one left. That's Katie Bauer. She is out of Liberty High. She is playing her ball at Central College up in Iowa. She's an outfielder. She's a freshman, and she plays in a reserve role as she's getting her feet wet on the collegiate level. So that is softball. Some of the best softball in the country, collegiate softball. Those players come from right here in Missouri.
Well, and Crenshaw, being a catcher, at this time of the year, is starting to warm up and it's starting to get humid as well. And you've got an entire season that you've got on your legs. So it's remarkable that she's been able to catch, or was able to catch those 5 games in 3 days, especially getting hit by a pitch twice.
That's right, and that's that last game might have been her 60th game for the year. That's like you say, that's a long year. And here in the Midwest, each game the temperature just gets warmer and warmer, but the games don't get shorter. They just get more intense. And I take my baseball cap off to all catchers out there.
As you move into baseball, a lot of these postseasons, the tournaments have not been announced yet. I know, for example, Missouri State, Mizzou, they're beginning their conference tournaments with Missouri Valley Conference and the SEC this week. In Missouri State's case, they began yesterday.
That's correct. With the tournaments getting into full swing in the next week to 2 weeks, we'll be talking a lot about baseball. So I don't want to go through each individual tournament, but I can't let the week go by without pointing a couple of players out. And one of them is a third baseman. He's a junior out of Liberty High, and he's playing at Northwest Missouri State. It's Ryan Williams. Now, the Bearcats had somewhat of a tough year, finished under 500 with 21 wins and 30 losses, but it was a good year for Ryan. The last game was against Missouri Southern. Ryan went 3 for 4, had 2 runs and a double. He ended the season leading his team in batting at .391, on base percentage at .523, and in slugging percentage at .690. So that helps us look forward to what he will do as a senior next year. And also a junior, but a pitcher, a right-handed pitcher out of Universal City, playing at Grinnell College up in Iowa, which is a Division III school. And on Saturday, Grinnell College defeated Illinois College 13-3. And Ian got his 10th start for the year. He pitched 6 innings. He gave up 1 earned run, no walks, but he struck out 8. And he's 5-2 for the season. Again, he is a junior and will be back next year.
Yeah, Missouri Southern, they win their conference tournament. They go to the tournament. They lose on Sunday, so they're done now as well. But there's still some teams, that haven't began even their conference tournaments yet. As I mentioned, Missouri State and Mizzou. Moving on into men's lacrosse, there's a few players left in men's and women's lacrosse as well.
Right, and in men's lacrosse, I think everybody agrees in the lacrosse community the best men's player to come out of Missouri. He wrapped up his career. He's a graduate student playing at Georgetown. Georgetown is ranked, I believe, as 11th in the country, 9th or 11th, but they had the tough duty in the Elite Eight of being matched up to play number one Notre Dame. They gave Notre Dame a heck of a game, but they lost 16-11. So Notre Dame will advance to the Final Four this week, but and Georgetown is out. But George Bundy Jr., the grad student out of MICDS, he scored 5 goals in that game. And so Bundy is now the second leading all-time goal scorer in Georgetown Hoya history. So that's a long-standing, storied program in men's lacrosse. And a player out of St. Louis has the second most goals scored in their entire history. So what a credit to him. What a credit to MICDS and the St. Louis area for the men's soccer that they play.
And then on the women's lacrosse side,
yes, we had players on 2 teams left going into the Sweet 16. The Elite Eight, and the team with 1 player is the one that moved on to the Final Four. East Stroudsburg, which is a D2 school located in Pennsylvania, will be advancing, and the Warriors is home for Natalie Ruffus. She is out of Rockwood Summit, and she is a freshman this year playing in a backup role in her attack position. Maryville, local in-state school, playing women's lacrosse very well. They're ranked 9th going into the tournament. They didn't make it to the Final Four. They lost a very close game to Regis University, which is in Denver. They lost 10-9. So they wrapped up an excellent season and came very close to getting to the Final Four. And once again, I'll mention Sydney Tieman's name. She's out of Eureka High, and she added to her Division II all-time goal-scoring record in Division II. She scored 3 goals in her last collegiate game. So each goal she scored there for the last 2 weeks, she just increased her own all-time Division II record. There were 12 Missouri players on that team, but only 3 are seniors. One, Olivia Sardinia out of Holt, Ronnie Skorts out of Rockwood Summit, and Sydney Tiemann, as I said, out of Eureka. So they will have 9 Missourians coming back, and I think they will be very competitive again next year. So just like the men, there's some really good women's lacrosse that is being played at the collegiate level with players out of Missouri.
Well, it's outstanding, as always, the updates. And if folks, you want to see this, you can go to www.playonsports.substack.com, sign up for the free newsletter, and be a part of this and kind of join us every Wednesday morning here on Where Are They Now Wednesdays. And before we let you go, Kent, I know we've been working, or you've been working, I've just been watching, on the Missouri Career 1000 list, and I know you're continuing to get folks that have responded to that. They can send emails to MissouriCareer1000@gmail.com. It's scrolling across the bottom of the screen right now. But tell us a little bit about, kind of update us on that and where we are.
We're moving along. We're adding players. We now have about 350 high school athletes, both boys and girls, who have scored 1,000 points in their career. And we're just scratching the surface now. That may only be 10% of what we find. And when we get to that plateau where, hey, we found most of the ones that have already scored, and then we'll be having the fun of adding every year to that list and watching players cross that threshold of 1,000 and moving on up through the record books. So I encourage anybody that knows of people that scored 1,000 points in their high school career to send it to MissouriCareer1000@gmail.com. All we need is a player's name, the year they graduated, the high school, and the number of points that they scored. And they will go on the list. And we will have that up online here shortly so that people can start reviewing it and looking for players from their high school, realizing that they know somebody else that they can let us know, and we can continue to add to this list and give those athletes the recognition they deserve.
Outstanding. Well, another episode in the books. What do you have planned for the Memorial Day weekend?
Well, the weekend I have a son and his girlfriend coming in from out of town, so that will be fun. That's always good time. I'll have something in the smoker. That's the one thing they've requested is for Dad to smoke something for them as they come back from New York, where maybe they don't get quite the smoked meats that we do here in Missouri.
Outstanding. Well, Kent, as always, it's been a pleasure. And again, it's www.playingonsports.substack.com. And you can kind of follow along, but also make sure you join us here every Wednesday morning on Where Are They Now Wednesdays. And as always, the Missouri State Highway Patrol reminds us to take that 3 seconds and buckle up. It's 3 seconds that could save your life. Be safe, be smart. Hey, and be here next Wednesday.